Nick, I think a lot of people will be fascinated the fact you've put something together like this, about the whole writing process that you went through. How does that sort of come together from start to finish?
It starts off as a treatment for me. I did a brief outline of what I wanted to get out of the film. Scenes, locations, obviously we're working on a low budget, so we have to consider things like that. But yeah, I guess the script, it's sort of just a case of, when we spoke to the stroke survivors, hearing their stories, and the young carers involved, sort of using that information and trying to do that justice within such a short space of time. It's only 40 minutes as a film, so it's hard to get that all within that. So yeah, I guess just making a 30 page. How long did it
take you to put it together?
I think it was probably only a month of writing the script, but the treatment probably was developing for about a year.
And Leanne, fantastic performance. When you first saw the script, what did you think? What sort of drew you into the film in the first place?
It was one of those really funny kind of life things happened. I was on my way to see my friend who'd had a stroke at the hospital, and my agent called and said, "I've got a script for you." And I said, "Look, I can't talk on the phone. I've got to go." She's a much older friend of mine. And she said, "Well, look, I'll email it over, have a little read, and don't worry about it." And I said, "Look, I'll call you later." And then saw my friend Shirley Davies, who's still battling away. And I got home and I read the script, and I was very moved by it. And I thought it was a really sophisticated, compassionate piece of work. And I was really interested in what it would be like to play somebody who's dealing with what Rachel's dealing with.
Yeah. So it was a series of events that came together that...
Well, it was just a really funny...
Serendipitous.
Yeah, it was just like one of those really funny things that happens in life sometimes. But I don't know about anybody watching it, but whether it's a stroke or not, I think a wonderful quality that Nick has in his writing is it makes things really available, and I think we can all identify with what it's like to deal with a loved one who's ill, who's sick, feeling that loss and fear, and I think he captured that really beautifully.
Yeah. I didn't realise you were a Scouser, by the way.
No, yeah, don't shout it round. They get me lynched outside.
Okay, what was it like for you for being involved in a film with obviously some, household names and experienced actresses? What was that experience like?
I was absolutely terrified to begin with. I remember the first day just walking around the house and people going, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just nervous, I don't know what I'm doing." But then everyone turned up, Leanne turned up, they just gave me a massive hug. They were like, "Hi," just really normal people. And then they just treated me like I was just one of them. And it was just lovely because I felt like I really had to prove to them that I deserved to be working with someone like them. But they were all absolutely lovely. They gave me lots of tips, lots of
But almost a unique learning experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm really, really grateful to Nick as well for giving me the opportunity to be in this film with everyone. But yeah, it was crazy.
Max, my question to you is, are you like that at home all the time? And if you are you available?
I don't really want to answer that question.
Sure, your mum and dad might answer that for me. But you really enjoyed the film?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the best bit for you, would you say?
Probably.
Yeah, just...
Probably. I don't know.
It was all good.
Yeah, it was all good. I can hardly remember all of it, really.
But you want to carry on acting, presumably?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Nick, I mean, it'll show my age here now. I remember as a kid watching, I didn't see the original films, but I remember watching a lot of sort of northern sync dramas like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning and A Kind of Loving and things like that, which were, I think some few folk in the audience will remember it and other people it'll be completely alien. But the sort of gritty dramas that sort of changed the film industry in the 60s, would you say? And my sort of question would be, there was a real northern feel to this film. Is enough being done in the north for filmmakers like yourself? And
Probably not enough films represented in the north at all. I mean, there's a lot of films shot in the north, but not necessarily set in the north. I mean, films like like as you were saying, the kitchen sink dramas like Kathy Come Home, Kes, a lot of Ken Loach films. They were actually, most of them, other than maybe, I think it was the northeast, wasn't it, Kes? But most of his films tend to lean towards like the Midlands and the south. So, for me, it's sort of trying to represent the north in a different light, and one that's not being represented at the moment as well. Acting, actors as well, like Katie and Max, and of course Leanne. It's getting stories out that they can play their own accent. They don't have to, except Leanne, obviously, but we'll forgive her. But yeah, probably not enough being done in the north, in my opinion.
And Leanne, for I would imagine there's people who watch this, maybe some people in the audience who are aspiring to be actors, and I would imagine it's a challenging profession to go into, to say the least. What would you say to people? What would your inspiration be to people who want to become actors or actresses?
I get asked this, and I don't know whether I'm the right person to ever give anyone careers advice or life advice, so I tend to do neither. But I think if you can't not do it,
right,
you should be doing it.
Right.
Because it's a tricky old game. Yeah. And I think that if you're compelled, then you'll figure it out.
Something.
It's why it's lovely to work with. I know Casey was saying about, but I watched Kate Russell and Chrissy Rock for years, and I meet them and go, they went before you. Do you know what I mean? It's a lovely kind of. It's lovely when you get to meet people who you've watched their work for years and it's really inspired you, and it's nice if you can do that for somebody else. But I think I'm sure everyone who's involved in the film, you've just got to keep on keeping on. Yeah. But that's why, just to go back to your thing about one of the huge draws for this, I remember Mark kind of was really honest with me, agent, and said, look, we just want to be really honest, the writer's very young, and he's directing, he's very young. And I was thinking, 24? Maybe. And they said 17 at the time. And everybody else went, oh, he's only 17. And I went, yes, that's for me. I'll do it. Right. Because I feel like
that was a plus for you, the
absolutely.
Fact. Right.
And then I sat down with Nick, I had a coffee with Nick and Mark, and I was sold. I was sold by Nick's passion and his intellect and his compassion, and also his massive cinephile. He'll tell you about any movie ever made and who directed it and who was in it and what year it was out and who edited it, and there was something for me.
Which shows you somebody who's passionate, isn't it?
Yeah, and also somebody who's, it's a lovely thing. It's a brilliant industry to be in, and you meet the most amazing people. And just by its very nature, it can be cynical sometimes, and you can get a little bit jaded if you're not careful. Yeah. And for me, there was something glorious about meeting somebody who was just so
clean slate, basically.
Was just passionate and inspired by the work that he was doing, and I wanted to be a part of that vision. And I saw Katie in Northern Lights and thought she was fantastic. And Max, I'm trying to get on his agent's books because he works more than I do. So all of that
came together. I think for me, one of the things watching the film, it highlighted how we've all got a thin grasp on this thing called life, and it can all just go so quickly. Did that affect you making the film, or did it reinforce that sort of realisation that the preciousness really of, I know it sounds cliched, but it isn't, of every day?
There you go.
Thanks. Yeah, it was when I read the script first, and then Nick told me that my character was not coping with it very well. She doesn't like to think about it. She's in denial. Basically, she doesn't like change. I think a lot of people don't like change in life, so they just try and pretend it's not happening. But then the character has to realise it is happening. This is now her life, and sometimes life does change. I'm getting aspiring now. Sometimes life does change, and you have to change in order to fit into that life. And that was the journey that my character went on, and that's what I really like that Nick gave me, because I don't really like my character at the start. She's quite annoying, and then she realises what her life has now become, and she's got to fit into it.
But that's a powerful character, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And then she's realised, and she reconciles with everyone. So.
Yeah. Nick?
What was the question again?
About the preciousness, really, of the time that we've got.
I suppose. Yeah, I mean, a stroke could happen to anyone. I mean, originally, we had a big discussion about this. In the stroke team, we were going to show a pack of cigarettes. Well, we were thinking of showing that. Well, it was originally in the script. And she was trying to pull out a pack of cigarettes from her bag. That was originally what she was going to go for the bag. And then Leanne made a really good point that, this could happen to anyone, this stroke. It doesn't have to be, someone who's struggling with a health problem. It could happen to anyone. I think that's, a very important lesson that, why the story needs to get out there is it could happen to anyone in this room. Literally anyone. So life is, it could be short, and it can be short, and obviously everyone dies, but for some more than others, they really struggle, which is why the compassionate angle is so important in the film.
Yeah. Leanne?
I love the scene that Katie and Kate have in the bar. I think it's put perfectly. And I think that we've all had an experience of seeing somebody that we really love or is in our family, and I kind of like that they have a contentious relationship. They're not the Von Trapps. It's difficult, and it's teenage, and it's hormonal real. And real. And I think it is just that. I think now more than ever, I want to see things that are based in compassion. And I want to see things that show ordinary families and what they have to go through, and the pressure that they're already under, and the stuff that they may be facing for a lifetime. I really like that it's not wrapped up in a bow. You don't know if she's ever going to get any better, how long these kids are going to be left to try and,
Not the cliche
manage with the support they've got. So I think it's very important.
Just one last question before we open up to the audience. I think most of us who are past 40 would need to know, is there going to be another series of Cold Feet? Have you got the inside on that?
Honest to God, if I tell you, someone will shoot through that ceiling and I'll be rocking it up. No, they're going to go again.
Right.
January they'll start filming. Yeah. She says, I think, ish, maybe. Where's that video going?
We got any questions from people in the audience?
Leanne, what's it like working opposite a male counterpart who's got all his own hair?
Oh, wow. Always
real hair.
Real. Mine's not real. Me and Jimmy went to the same fella.
We do have a roaming mic somewhere as well. Somewhere, I don't know. Somewhere. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Well, once again, congratulations. I thought it was a great film. What do you think, what's the future now for this film? Where do you think it's going to be seen from now on? Because I think it deserves a wider audience.
Thank you very much. We can only hope and pray that the film will do well on the festival circuit, which is really its primary focus, which it'll be on the festival circuit hopefully for another year. It hasn't hit any festivals yet. We haven't got back from any yet. So hopefully we'll have a nice run there, which is where we'll garner awards for Leanne, hopefully, and Max and Katie. But yeah, I mean, that's the best way of getting it seen in that respect, because, we're not going to have a full theatrical release at the moment, because it's so it's so hard to have a theatrical release. So hopefully people like it on the festival circuit, and then it might be on your cinema screen or at home.
What are the plans for the future, Nick? Have you already got another script lined up, or is that something that will take place in the future?
I've got a few different ideas at the moment roaming around. I've not decided yet which. I mean, I'd love to work with this cast again in different films. Me and Katie work a lot, so it's obvious that it'll happen in the future very soon, hopefully. But I'd love to tell you more, but I say anything yet.
Great. Can't get anything out of any of you. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Anybody else got a?
You mentioned you wrote it about a month,
Yeah.
And then you spent some time in script development. Was that really just to take it to screenplay, or was it the storyboard and artwork?
So do you want me to repeat your question? So it was about writing, wasn't it, and about a month and through to direction. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't storyboard. So I'm very instinctual. It's more of a collaboration on set. I don't collaborate with the script, but I do collaborate on set. So it'll be very much a discussion with me and Leanne, me and Alan, me and Katie and Max, to see what's working best. But in terms of the script, because I already had this finite version of the film in my mind, it was quite easy to pin down what I wanted, because it's like you lie in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, you go, okay, so what am I going to do with this scene? And then you just write it. So I write quite quickly. The treatment took longer than the script. But yeah, I don't like storyboarding at all.
Just linking in with that, I mean, one of the things I'm really interested in myself is how people learn and how people aim to improve, from a sporting perspective, but from an acting perspective and a director perspective. How do you go about improving as an actor?
I think every job that I do, I can only speak for myself because I think it's not, as you'll know, the individual person is, that their psychology informs how they go about that. But I just try and be open and available to every experience, and
not prejudge something.
No, and also for instance, with this piece of work, and it had its own specific challenges, because obviously Rachel's got mobility issues and she is more or less able to speak in terms of where she's at post-stroke. But I'd said to Nick, the deal is that if we do this together, I'm not going to speak to you like you're 17. We're going to have an actor-director relationship, and it will be robust, and it'll have to be comprehensive, and we'll probably disagree sometimes. And we did. We had, some, not even disagreements, just really, Nick would talk about something and I would think it might be something else, and usually Nick was right. So that's a really good place to be, because you know that you're interrogating every moment, and so everything pulls up its own stuff. But I think for this one especially, it's just a really good reminder for me to be really open.
Right.
Get yourself out the way.
Yeah.
Do the
Don't
work before you
prejudge
turn up, and then when you get there, just be, working with amazing actors.
Kate, what about you? What's your thoughts on improving your craft?
Well, I think there's been a lot of improvement just based on the people I've worked with. This time I kind of had to, I watched everyone all the time. I was always watching on the monitor, always admiring everyone's work, and then just getting tips and getting advice. Leanne did give me some good advice. And then, like Leanne said, being open, Nick would come up to me and we will have rehearsed a scene, and he'd be like, right, now we're going to do it completely differently. And I'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine. And he'd be like, right, now you just got to do it, just do it. And I was like, right, okay, cool. So it was just going out of my comfort zone, and usually Nick was right. And it would work a lot better when he wanted to change things. So even though I'd rehearsed it again and again, I now know that I shouldn't do that.
Right.
Obviously, you should rehearse a little bit. But when you go into it, just be ready for them to change anything and change everything that you do, and just be okay with it. So it was good.
Nick, what about you? What's your route to improvement?
Work with good actors. If you don't work with good actors, your film's static. So if you work with people who create emotion, because films, it's basically just emotion, really, film, unless you're making something that's animated or something. It's really just working with great actors who are open to collaboration, being puppeteered for a moment, but then also say no, you're wrong, and but then you're right, and and then there's it's the discussion of it, and I think I think as well it taught me a lot working with Max as well, because Max is a very experienced actor in the A Word. And there's sort of a fear there about, because me and Max never worked together before, and people say you're a child actor, but you're an adult actor, really, aren't you? stuck inside a child's body. Because but Max, he honestly, he knows. He doesn't agree, but he's very, very pro for his age, and learning to work with that I think is quite important, and trying different things. And I work with a lot of women as well, so it's a bit, it's a bit different working with a young male actor.
Anybody?
Just to say dead quick, I should probably say as well, you were saying before about it being collaborative on this one. I think Gemma and Jason would agree, and the other actors, like, we didn't have a lot of time. So an awful lot of it was point and shoot, because we had, was it 6 days? 5-6 days, there was no rehearsal.
Right.
We literally, I turned up the night before at 11 o'clock, and then we were on the next morning. And I met Katie on the day, I met Max the morning we started shooting. And there's something really exciting about that, because that's not always the way that it is. And
I should have said, does that lack of time actually focus you much more? And
it just meant that, I think it made us a real, and all the crew were amazing. They were just amazing. Everyone hauled ass because we didn't have any time. And I should say as well, Alan McLaughlin, the DOP, was just phenomenal. And there were times where, we had one day, we had to get whatever we had to get, and Nick is, got this tapestry he's got to try and pull together in no time, and Alan would come in and go, right, scrap that, we'll try blah blah blah, and then the three of us, and then all of us would be in the room, and the crew would see if they could do, and it was a real collaboration at times, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I would say, for instance, the best example of that was a scene between Katie and Gemma. When Katie, we leave it on you, and you're just looking out, and Gemma's left you. We don't use multiple angles there, because we didn't have the time to do multiple angles. But what's most powerful about that scene is that we don't cut to Katie's reaction. Right. We see it in our heads, and then when we do see Katie's reaction, she's so lost, and we finally understand her character in some way. I think, things like that, it's actually worked much better.
It was a really creative,
dynamic.
It was deeply creative, because sometimes, if you have got more time and you sort of fleshed it, but it sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, and some of the ideas that Nick came up with Alan for some of the kind of slightly surreal moments, they were born out of necessity. They were born out of budget and time, and we're losing the light, and we can't go back and do this tomorrow, and then in the midst, I should say as well, the snow, which looks beautiful on the screen, was murder, and that was the first day.
I mean, the snow, we were forecast. We weren't forecast that well. I don't think we were. I can't remember. But the one day that it snowed on the shoot, we never said we didn't expect it. But then on set, we saw it was snowing, and I said, right, grab the camera. I want to film this scene with Max, and that was very on the spot. And we were going to film that another day, but I said, right, okay, we need to get this done today. So we went and filmed that scene.
It hurted my face. Because it was like hailstone. It was like hailstone just dropping on my face.
Do you want to tell everyone about what was it like working in the cold weather?
It was horrid. It was hurting, it was freezing, so I didn't like it.
The price you pay for your craft.
Yeah. I think we ironically, the voiceover we did with you, we filmed that in your hotel bathroom.
We did do that in my hotel bathroom.
That's how low budget we were. Because it was the best room to do it in.
So also with that, Nick, obviously people have seen this film for the first time tonight. I think most people would be really keen for others to see it and for this to become really successful. What can anybody do to help or support this? What would if you could ask people to support it in any way?
Support production companies like Cherwell, who funded the film. Go and support them, fund them. If you're really interested in that side of things, support independent film. Go to the cinema like this and go and see a film you wouldn't normally see.
Each individual, if they can mention it on social media and things like that.
Of course.
They've had a great night tonight.
You can rate us on IMDb. That'd be very appreciated to see what people think of it. Give us a nice, a nice feeling of how you felt. If you hated the film, I want to know. I want to know why you hated it, and I don't care. I do. I'm interested. I'm more interested if you hated the film or loved the film. If you're in between, it's harder. But hearing those mixture of opinions is really important for me.
And I believe...
Do you not like criticism?
I'm with you, Max. And I believe for anybody who didn't see Northern Lights the first time, is it for the first time tonight that it's actually available on?
Yeah, today's the DVD release, so go and get yourself a DVD if you want to see Northern Lights. It's a nice film. It's different from this. It's still a hard-hitting drama, but it's a drama.
Special film.
And Katie's in it brilliantly, and Rhys Cadman, who's here as well, Megan Grady. But yeah, we used a lot of the cast. We have Becky here as well, who worked on Northern Lights, and Nick Sheard. But yeah.
And that's available tonight.
And that's available tonight. I think it's £8. £8. Yeah, and you can get
English pounds to support
8 English.
But you can always leave a tenner if you want.
If you want.
Well, I want to ask Matt. Can I ask Max something really quickly?
Yeah.
What was different between working on this film compared to the A Word in terms of your performance? What was different between Sam in Cottonwool and Joe in the A Word?
Well, I didn't sing as much. Well, I basically didn't sing at all, really. And I wasn't autistic, and I didn't have headphones. And basically, I had a different name and a different personality.
What was the hardest thing, though?
Being Joe or Sam.
Sam.
Probably in the snow.
In the snow. Not the stroke scene where he's, scared, but the snow scene.
Anybody got any more questions? Anybody want to ask anybody anything?
Social media profile, if you got comment on it?
You could follow us at Cottonwool Film, isn't it? And IMDb and Facebook, and it's just Cottonwool Film. There's no other films called Cottonwool, so we should be pretty easy to find, I hope. Yeah.
Anybody else?
When you played a lady affected by a stroke, it was really, really convincing. How hard was it to do that?
Like we said, didn't have time to rehearse a lot at all. So Nick sent me over a load of material for me to take a look at, and then I spoke to some people on the phone who'd had those issues, and I was really interested in consistency, like how consistent the disability is, and a lot of what people said is it's dependent on when you're tired. Some days the sort of developmental side of things can be really challenging. Sometimes you can't move as well. But again, it was just I just had to make a decision, and then me and Nick shot the first day, and it seemed to be, I would say, she says tentatively, it would seem that it was able to tell the story that Nick was interested in telling.
Did you rehearse the stroke at all?
No, we just didn't have time. So, and again, there's pros and cons to both, but I think what you see is quite an authentic, and the way we checked in a lot in terms of conversation of, Nick says he doesn't storyboard, but he knew exactly chronologically, how well Rachel was doing, if she'd have had a bad day, a good day. I don't know if there's some little moments in where she can say certain sentences, but that cognitive response to certain words, an awful lot of the people I spoke to said it's almost that bit, when you're having a conversation with someone and you go, oh God, what's that word? But it's like that all the time, and it's deeply distressing. And I should say, for a young writer as well, the moment where this scene with Gemma, who's just had such a ball with, she's so brilliant, where Rachel's got her period, and that was one of the moments when I was reading the script that I was really, really moved by. And then when I found out at Nick's age, to even think of that what that would do to you psychologically as a woman, and the issue of being ashamed of your disability, and all of that stuff really informed it before I got to set. So it was, you know, and hopefully I've done it justice. I hope.
I think the thing is as well with the stroke scene, for instance, and things like that. It was very instinctual with you, Max. I mean, I didn't say much to you, did I? Really, Max is a fantastic improviser. In the mini stroke scene, the surreal scene. There's a moment where you say, okay, 3 minutes, and then you're about to hit 5 minutes. And I told Max, so I'd just go up to 5. And then after we'd finished, I was about to call cut, and then Max threw himself towards the sofa, and you hide yourself like that. I never told Max to do that at all, but that, you know, that moment there is one of my favourite moments in the film, and I never told you to do that, did I?
No, not really. I just did it. I just did it.
I think there was a lot like that with Katie as well. I mean, there's a lot of things like the fight scene with the girls. That was quite, you know, it was similar to the script, but it was loose as well.
I think, sorry. Yeah, with that fight scene, we went outside for 30 seconds and we were like, right, what we're going to do? I was like, which one of you am I going to hit? And then we were like, all right, it's me. Okay, let's do it. And I think I was in costume, I remember, and we were rehearsing it. And we got a bit too into it, and we actually both hit the floor, and we were like, oh God, scrapping on the floor. And I got up and I had mud all down me, and I was like, oh my God, the costume designer's going to kill me. But it was very like improvised. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. We were just going to go for each other. But what I was going to say then was when Leanne was doing the stroke scene, I remember because Nick was like, I only want Leanne and Max in here. It needs to be, you know, it's an emotional scene. We need to focus on this. I remember everyone, like all the other cast and crew that were in the room were just listening to it. We couldn't even see it. And we were just listening to it, and everyone just burst into tears. It literally shook everyone when she did it. So it was amazing, just putting that out there.
Yeah, my question's for the cast. Were you aware of young carers and their situation and what they have to do before reading the script, or was it quite a new situation you found out about?
Well, for me personally, I wasn't that aware of it. Nick sent me a lot of videos and a lot of information about it first before I got the script, so I became more aware of it then. But no, I wasn't that aware of it, and I think it's a subject that a lot of people aren't aware of, and there needs to be more awareness about it, which Nick is trying to do with this film. But I had no idea, like 22,000 carers under the age of 9 is just incredible, and no one really knows about it. So no, for me personally, I wasn't very aware of it, but that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this. I think a lot of people need to be aware of it.
Do you want to say anything?
No, thank you.
I was a little bit. My mum is a child psychotherapist, so she spent a lot of time working in schools, and an awful lot of the kids actually that she sort of gives support to emotionally when she was working in the school system. A lot of them were young carers, but again, like Casey said, I had absolutely no idea of the sheer number, and also the stuff that Nick sent me over. I remember being so shocked. There was a video of a woman who had had a stroke and a young son who was not much older than Max, and she was in the house with that button, and it was her and her little boy. And that scene where Gemma's coming in and trying to explain to him, like, this is, you know, you have to hit this button at this time, and it's inconceivable to me that responsibility would be placed on a child out of necessity, but it is. And so the volume of kids who are having to deal with it was quite shocking to me.
Yeah, I think a lot. You know, the thing when I was on BBC News, I think the thing that made that story, why people were interested in that story. I don't know if there's people here who came because of that, but I think the carer aspect was what has probably drawn a lot of people to this as well. I think that's you know, because it's not aware. There's not a film really known for child carers, I suppose. So I think it's quite important. That's a really good question. Yeah.
Anybody else? One at the back.
Hello. I just want to say, obviously, congratulations on another amazing film. Nick.
Thank you.
And yeah, touching on that, obviously the situation is so important and it needs to be told. How much research went into it?
I think I was surprised because there wasn't a lot of information online, so we did have to speak to stroke survivors who, told us how gruesome, not gruesome, but, their stories that were, hard hitting, and, I wanted to kind of show that in the film in the most extreme way that didn't shy away from it in a way. So that in terms of research, it was mainly just meeting people and listening to their story, sitting with them for a coffee and going, okay. It was me, Mark and Amy, the two assistant producer and producer. We went round and we just spoke to these people, and the compassion in their stories and things like that really drives the film, I think, and in your research as well. I think quite a bit of research, but not an enormous amount, surprisingly, because I wanted it to be fresh. I didn't want too many statistics rolling over the place. I thought that was important. Yeah, organic, I guess.
How does it feel, Nick, when you've actually got to this point? Is it a relief or excitement or a mixture of a lot of things?
Yeah, I agree. She said, I'm ready for a drink. Yeah, I guess it was. I didn't really watch the film. I half watched it. I mean, it's amazing because the premiere's so lovely, and we got 185 seats in here, and we filled up almost all of them. I mean that for me, that people are seeing my work and seeing all these amazing actors, do their thing so brilliantly. I guess that's the nicest thing about it, because I've seen it so many times. It's nice that everyone else gets to share it. You've watched it twice, haven't you?
That was like seeing it, because I was quite isolated when we were doing it, so the sort of everything happens around Rachel because she can't really do anything or go anywhere by herself, and I loved seeing all of the scenes, and it was really like the scene with Jason and Max, I was really like, and the scenes between and Kate, and it was a gorgeous thing to be able to go and part of something that I'm watching, and I feel really moved by everyone else's work in it.
And I think the fact you were battling against the snow, the Manchester Derby.
Give a special high five to Mark, who was just like man on fire the whole 5 days. Yeah. Mark from, where are you? Where is he? Has he gone out? He's probably gone to drop someone off somewhere. He was literally flying. It's like, where's Mark? He's in the car, sandwiches. Someone got snowed in at lunchtime. Then we were somewhere else, and yeah.
We had a crew of people who really cared. I mean, like, you never see a lead actress helping put up the red carpet just before everyone came. Never see that, would you?
Listen, I'm one of 4 kids.
But yeah, it was all hands on deck, really, with that. And, like Katie and Max, you were helpful, and Leanne, everyone was sort of chipping in. Because no one wants to get in the way, but everyone knows, right, we've got a job to do, we need to get it done. Yeah.
I'm sure everybody would agree it's been a wonderful evening. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And I think a round of applause again for Nick and the team.